think a lot of you are going to be able to relate to this video and what I'm going to cover here. You all have heard about zone 2 training. Is it the magical zone to training for Hyrox? Another question, can you actually train in it? And that's really important mainly for beginners. It's really important. You might not be able to train in it. You might have heard that you have to train in zone 2 because that's what all the elites are doing. So surely you must be doing it too. But what exactly is zone 2 and why should you? Why should you as a beginner or an intermediate care about it? We're going to break it down in a way that makes sense without getting into the science of it. There's a little bit of science stuff that I want to mention, but I'll keep it really basic and I only want to cover it because I just think it will help people to understand a little bit. So now, I know some of you might be thinking, what about going hard? Isn't that what's going to make me faster and better at Hyrox? And you're right, high intensity is important for speed and pushing your limits. But here's the key, zone 2 lays the essential foundations so you can then do more of the hard stuff as well. Imagine if you were building a house, you wouldn't start by putting the roof on before you've built a really good foundation. So zone 2, that is your strong foundation. That is what you want to be developing. You might have heard things like aerobic base, aerobic engine, foundations, endurance capacity. It's all the same, and zone 2 develops this and makes all those harder workouts much more effective because you can do more in them. Without a solid base of easy running, those intense sessions can actually lead to burnout or injury. So I'm guessing you've all tried running in zone 2, and I'm guessing a lot of you who are beginners that your heart rate ended up in zone 3 before you even got out the end of your road. If this is you, keep watching as I'm going to explain if it matters too much and what to do if you do want to stay in zone 2. So if that's what you're aiming to do, we're going to go through that. More often than not, you're going to do your zone 2 training running rather than doing the Hyrox movement. So in this video, I'm going to focus more about talking about running rather than the Hyrox stuff. You can do the Hyrox movements, you just might find it even harder to stay in zone 2. The fitter you are, the easier it is to do the movements and keep them easy. So let's start off with what zone 2 is. More often than not, on a 5-zone system used to categorize training, and that's exactly what I've got with my zone heart rate monitor. So zone 2, it's going to be around 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. But it's using percentages and it's off your heart rate. How reliable is it? What happens if you go a bit above it or a bit below it? This is what zone 2 is classed as, and stay with me on this. I'm just going to go through these quickly and then focus on the ones that are actually relevant. So zone 2 is your easy pace with more high-end athletes. It will include some of their steady intensity as well. For what your body is doing for energy is when you're burning fat at its highest for that energy. From a lactate standpoint, lactate is relatively low, it'd be like LT1. We're primarily using slow twitch muscle fibers, which is why we're able to use fat as an energy source. Our breathing feels controlled at this intensity or speed, and that's why we can hold a conversation. So you can easily see already, there's a lot of boxes to tick to class something as zone 2. And trying to classify zone 2 by all of these makes it really messy, and you don't need to. So zonal training, it's a guide, and use it that way. Use it as a guide. Zone 2, or any of the zones, it's more like a dimmer switch, whereas you change the zones rather than a light switch. So you don't suddenly go from zone 2 into zone 3, and then you get none of the benefits of zone 2. Zonal training is used to split your training up so you can categorize it in a way, which is why some coaches will use things like RPE, so rate of perceived exertion, so how hard you're working. That's normally done on a scale of 1 to 10, sometimes to 20, but zone 2 would be like your 3 or 4 out of 10 for effort. And this is key, that it feels easy, and it should feel easy for you. This is why some coaches will base their training on easy days, medium days, and harder days. It keeps it simple. I know what you're thinking, my zone 2 run doesn't feel easy. I've no idea what my lactate is. I don't know what muscle fibers I'm using. I think I could talk, but I don't want to because I want to try and keep my heart rate as low. And I'm now into zone 3, and I don't even get how people run in zone 2, let alone when someone says I went running in zone 1. This is definitely how I used to think of it. And for most of those points, that's still how I think about it. If this sounds familiar to you, the good news is you don't need to know most of this. You need to know that easy needs to feel easy. And if you're into zone 3, I'll cover what you're gonna do for that. Let's go to why zone 2 is often spoke about as being so important, and it really is. We're not making this sciencey, as I said, but you've probably heard of mitochondria being mentioned when people talk about zone 2, and often when people talk about it, it can be confusing, and it gets confusing fast. There's a good reason why mitochondria is mentioned, and I'm quickly going to explain it really simple, because I think it just helps to know. So zone 2 training really helps develop the quality and the quantity of your mitochondria. By having more and better quality mitochondria, it makes all your running easier, because they're like little powerhouses in your muscles. They make the energy you need to keep going. The more power plants you have, the more energy you can produce, you can run faster, and you can run longer. That's it. So for the absolute basics of mitochondria, the more you've got and the better quality of them you've got, you're going to be a better runner. So we know we need to do some of this training. Zone 2 provides a good stimulus to develop the mitochondria. But, and this is important, especially if you're struggling to run in zone 2, different intensities and volumes also create mitochondria. So if you're running in zone 3, don't think all of a sudden you're not getting really good benefits and adaptations from doing it. You're just in a different zone. So what one recent study found was that higher training frequencies, regardless of what you do, were associated with bigger increases in mitochondria. So training consistently and often, that's what's key. So the good news is, if you struggle to run in zone 2 and you're in zone 3, you're still going to be developing a lot. The study showed that everything works. We need various different intensities to develop everything well. My zone 2 range, so 60 to 70% heart rate, is 111 to 129. I know for me, so someone who took up running later on in their life, I haven't run since I was younger, I've done exercise, but lots of strength training. So it's difficult to stay in zone 2. Some people say, no, it's easy. I tell you now, and there'll be a lot of you who can relate to this, if you start training later on in life, and I'm not the lightest, it's hard to stay in zone 2. It's not even about starting later on in life. It's just when your fitness isn't that great. Or to be truthful, when I first started, my fitness was really poor. I'm way better, and I'm getting better, and I'm working on it, and I'm getting fitter. My heart rate is coming down on my easy runs. And here's 3 ways you can help if you're struggling to stay in zone 2. Number 1, learn to run slow. I thought 6-minute kilometers were slow, and that I couldn't run any slower than that. I learned to run at 7-minute kilometers. And yes, it may feel a bit embarrassing when you're running and somebody walking fast. It's hard to even overtake them, but who cares? Learn to run slow, but try and keep a decent running technique so you're not dragging your feet, and just speed up to overtake people. But yeah, learn to run slow. That's number 1. Number 2 is aerobic intervals. So this is a fancy name in this case for run a bit, walk a bit. So do an easy jog. Then when your heart rate starts going up too much, take a bit of a walk. Let your heart rate come back down. So you're just doing run walks for the whole time you're training. So aerobic intervals, they're great for training at any level. We just don't often think of them as your hard interval sessions, but intervals can be used really well to develop your aerobic base, and this is what you can do. I've done a YouTube video on aerobic intervals which you can watch, but for the purpose of this, where it's about trying to stay in zone 2, it simply is you're going to run slow and then walk when you come out of that zone to let yourself come, so you can keep your heart rate in the right zone. For this interval, it's not a set, do X amount of time, then X amount of walk. It's just a case of walk when you need to. Keep an eye on your heart rate, goes too high, take a little walk. Other option 3, cross train. If running is too much, start off on the bike or the cross train, or swimming if you're a good swimmer. You don't really want to make all your training no running at all, not when you're training for Hyrox, and that obviously involves a decent amount of running. But just know that if you use the bike, your heart rate might not be the same for zone 2 as when you're running, because you sat down. So it's different. Because you're sitting, your heart rate will be lower when you're cycling. So when you're on the bike, focus on the perceived effort and that torque test. So work hard enough so you're working, but easy enough so you could have a chat. Aim for that comfortable conversation pace where you can easily speak full sentences. This feel will align with your true zone 2 for cycling, which will be at a lower heart rate than when you're running for most of yours. So this doesn't mean just get on the bike and just coast it and make it easy. It means get pedaling so you're working, but that you can keep going for a long amount of time doing it. For me, it does seem to be about my zone 2 running heart rate. So when I'm on the bike, if I'm pedaling and I'm feeling that comfortable feeling, my heart rate is about 110 to 120. So for me, it's what I should be trying to do or trying to do when I'm running. So that's the zone that I would then train in on the bike. Top tip, if you're like me and you find doing 30 to 40 minutes on the bike really boring, especially when you're deliberately keeping it slow and steady, just find something you like watching. Watch these videos. Or find something on Netflix. Like, I love the sports series at the moment on Netflix. I'm currently watching Sprint. I don't know if anyone else has seen it. I love all those ones. Love the basketball ones and the football ones. All the behind the scenes. The Last Dance, if you haven't seen that basketball one, that's the best one. But yeah, watch something that's going to help you pass the time and still keep it comfortable. I say binge watch all of these that me and Francesca have done. Watch all of these. Anyway, back to zone 2. Zone 2 running, and what I'm going to talk about now is if like me, you end up in zone 3 rather than zone 2. So to start with, if you're running in zone 3 rather than zone 2, the odds are it's going to be harder for you to recover from. And that's what's important. Think of a good level runner running at zone 2. They're finding it easy, and that's why they can do so much volume there. And they might even be doing the running in zone 1. And yes, they can run in zone 1. For you or me, just not there, it takes time. So if you're running in zone 3, you're still working quite hard. So you need to take this into account. If you're training 3 times a week, it probably won't matter too much. But if you're pushing your training up and you're going to want to run more, and say you're training 5 times a week and you're doing 3 of these as easy, if these easy runs end up zone 3 runs, especially if it's towards the top end of zone 3, they're going to be hard to recover from, and maybe too hard to recover from. And this is what it comes down to. It's that recoverable volume again. I've mentioned it a lot in a lot of videos. If you want to know more, watch the one I did on does 80-20 training work for Hyrox. That's where I really go into recoverable volume. But all you need to know here is that you need to be able to recover from your training in order to not get injured and to improve to get better. So if you end up training too hard or a bit too hard too often, then recovery and progressing, it becomes hard, and the goal of training is it's progression. So you need to take this into account with your training. We need a variety of intensities, but what we know is we need a lot of volume of easy training, or maybe easy to moderate. So mix this in with some strides and you're covering a lot. So strides when you're doing faster short runs at the end. So rather than thinking you've got a real set zone you need to stay in, just think of your zones if you're doing that as a way to set your training. So we want to build that foundation, and the foundation is built on easier efforts. Our fitness is built by doing lots of easy, developing our slow twitch fibers, our hearts, our lungs, the mitochondria, amongst a load of other things. This base is what we need to be able to then do the bigger, harder sessions, the faster, high intensity efforts down the line. So don't think everything has to be easy in your fitness. As a beginner, you don't. When I say build a base to then do bigger, harder sessions, that's at the moment as a beginner, you can probably do smaller, harder sessions. The fitter you get, the bigger the harder sessions you can do. The fitter we are, the bigger ranges of speeds that we can train at as well. What I mean by this is, if you haven't got that aerobic base, as soon as you start going that little bit faster, it then goes hard. Like you've probably got an easy gear, then it's now hard. We want to have gears we can work through, not just the extremes of this is easy and oh now it's got really hard because I'm working that bit faster. Remember, if you're using zones and therefore heart rate, it is a guide. It's if you're a bit under or over the zone you're aiming for, it's not going to ruin your workout. There's lots to gain in the different zones. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll say it again because I think it's a great analogy, the dimmer switch analogy. The zones are dimmer switches, not light switches. You don't just switch from one zone to the next and lose everything you were doing because you crossed an imaginary line. It doesn't work like that. One of the main reasons for zone 2 is that it should feel easy. So you can do lots of it. So you can do longer runs. You can train more days a week because you've made it easy. So it's easy or easier to then recover from. Ideally, you finish these runs feeling good and that you feel like you could have done more. Training should have variety. Do some zone 1, some zone 2, some zone 3. You're going to vary what you're doing with it. If that means run, walk, and that means you're doing a bit of biking, do it. So you can work all those lower zones. If your run pushes you into zone 3, don't worry about it. Just know it'll probably take more to recover from, and that it might do you good to then do an easier bike session if when you come to train next, you haven't recovered from that run. Don't worry about pinpointing exact heart rates. Just know that the feeling should feel easy. So when you're doing your zone 2 workouts, they should feel easy. When you hear the top Hyrox athletes or any top athletes doing 20 to 30 hours of training a week, a large portion of their weekly mileage or training is at an easy, comfortable effort, very much in that zone 2 range, and a lot in that zone 1 range. It's because it allows them to build massive endurance without putting excess stress on the body. It helps them recover from harder efforts, and it helps them just accumulate a lot of training over time, which is a big part of developing. So don't be thinking that you need to do 20 to 30 hours of training a week. It's all relative to where you are with your fitness. When you're a beginner, you don't need to do loads to improve. When an athlete is at the top of their game and they want to then take things up even just a little bit, yeah, they're having to do more and more and more. For most of us, we don't even to think about that. One common mistake beginners make in running is too hard on their easy days. It's tempting to push that, thinking you'd be thinking faster's better. It's not. Zone 2 slower is often better. Resisting the urge to speed up on those easy runs is discipline, but you'll get the rewards for the long term of your training. There's a difference between not being able to stay in zone 2 because your fitness isn't there yet, and just running that extra bit faster because you think it's going to get you fitter. So how do you incorporate zone 2 into your training? It's pretty straightforward. Most of your runs, especially as a beginner, should be in this easy to steady conversational pace. Aim for the majority of your weekly mileage to feel like this. For intermediate runners, you'll still have a significant portion of your training in zone 2, perhaps 70 to 80% of your total running time, and then the rest dedicated to your tempo runs, your interval runs, your harder Hyrox sessions. And here's a critical point, especially relevant for Hyrox. Don't get too hung up on hitting perfect numbers on your heart rate monitor. While they can be helpful, they are helpful, running or moving and doing things how you feel is really important. Can you hold that conversation? Are you finishing your run feeling decent, like you could have done a bit more? If the answer is yes, you're probably in the right zone for doing your easy training. Sometimes your zone 2 runs might feel a bit slower than other days. That's normal as well. Your body might need a bit more recovery, especially if you've done some tougher Hyrox specific work or even if you haven't slept well or you haven't eaten as well, or it's hotter. There's so many things. If it's a hot day, your heart rate will be higher, you'll be hotter, things will feel harder. Listen to your body. If you're feeling tired, slow it down a bit. If you're feeling great, you'll naturally want to pick up the pace and maybe do that. Just stay in that conversational pace. Stay so it is still comfortable. The beauty of zone 2 is its adaptability. It's about meeting your body where it is on the day. You can very much go on feel. Zone 2 training is a powerful tool for building endurance, improving your body's efficiency, and creating a great foundation to develop from. It's not a magic bullet, but it is an incredibly effective and often overlooked component of a well-rounded training plan. Do the comfortable conversational runs. They might seem simple, but they're doing so much good for your fitness and your long-term development, and therefore your Hyrox performances. So get out there, find that conversational pace, start building that Hyrox engine. You'll thank yourself on race day. There's so much progress and development you'll get from the easiest stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.